Hello, everybody, and welcome back to show number 8 of the Pinson to Flood for the Win channel, the Hall of the Very Good. Today, we're going to talk about one of my favorite subjects because I'm a diehard New York Jet fan. I know, pity me. I've been a Jet fan since the 60s when I was a little kid. I saw Joe Willie Namath, and that's all it took, and I became a fan ever since. And today, we're going to talk about a team about the front four of the New York Jets called the Sack Exchange. And they were pivotal, along with Lawrence Taylor, in getting sacks to be counted as a counting stack in 1982, which is a joke when they talk about the NFL. This is a whole nother video I'll do one day about how poorly the NFL rule book is, because it's a joke, because there's so many differences because of games played. For 40 years, there were 12 games, and then became 14 for about almost a 20-year period. Then it became 16, and now it's 17. That's a whole nother thing we'll get into later, because that just ticks me off. So I'm putting together something about that and about each time period. But, some of the best, greatest probably people that have the number of sacks are not going to ever be recognized, because the Deacon Jones and the Richard Jacksons and the Merlin Olsons, and you can go down the line, Alan Page and Jim Marshall and Carl Eller. We can go down the line of all the great defensive linemen of the 60s and 70s that are not going to get counted and should have these things counted. They don't have these play-by-play stats that baseball has, to where they could go back and look and put together all the way back and decide who has the most sacks. But they started it in 1982 based off the New York Sack Exchange and Lawrence Taylor. So we're going to talk about the New York Sack Exchange today. We'll talk about a few other things. I want to talk to you about, I don't get any money. I don't ask for sponsors. I don't want sponsors. I don't need any of that stuff. But I want to talk about Penny Sleevers and MagPro and why I believe in them and why you guys should believe in them. Talk about, there's some other football cards I want to talk about. Our player that we're going to talk about in the Hall of the Very Good is Darren Johnson. Had an outstanding career. Had over 400 home runs if you combine his minor and major leagues. And then I'll show you another one of my things that I collect on this side. And these are these big binders. I'm trying to collect every team set, no matter how small or how big, of every Expos team from 1969 to 2004, their last year. And I'm about 80%, I think, maybe somewhere around there. So I'll show you one of those books. But let's talk about the New York Sack Exchange. These are the four. And the picture back here, which is of the four. So at the ends, where the great Mark Gastineau, who until Strahan broke the record, he held the record for the most sacks in a season with 22. Marty Lyons, he's in the Alabama Hall of Fame. He's a great player out of Alabama, was the defensive end. Lyons, Gastineau, and Klecko were together for about 8, almost 9 years together. Salam was together with them for about 5 years. And Salam was an outstanding defensive tackle. And these are all done by electric grading. I had these graded. I got pretty nice copies. I think they're grading. It's maybe just a little high for vintage, but I love their flips. I mean, their flips are outstanding. And so I got these all graded. And the only Hall of Famer out of this group is Joe Klecko. But Abdul Salam was named Larry Falk when he came out from Kent State. He was drafted in the 7th round in 1988 by the Jets. He ended up with his career with 21 sacks. He was defensive tackle. His job wasn't to get sacks. It was to crush running backs in most cases. He played from 1976 to 1983 with the Jets. He was a solid player for them. And again, part of this line that, they call the Sack Exchange. And these guys, they've got a 30 for 30 out on them. They've got a book called The Definitive Oral History of the 1980s New York Jets. It's authored by Greg Prato. It was released in 2011. It's a pretty good book about the 1980 Jets, that period, the 80s. But outstanding player. Joe Klecko's the other defensive tackle, just a superstar player. He's second all time on the Jets in sacks with 78. Actually had a high of 20 and a half in 1981. Had 10 in 1980. Was just he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I'm glad that he finally got in because he played for 12 years for the Jets, or 11 years for the Jets. He played his last season with at the age of 35 for the Indianapolis Colts, which was heartbreaking as a Jet fan to see him leave. But really good player. Was a 4-time Pro Bowl. Is in the Hall of Fame, 2-time All-Pro. Just a really solid player, and was against the run. This team was hard to run on in the 80s when these guys were together. They were an outstanding group all around. Marty Lyons came out of Alabama in 1979. He was a first-round pick, 14th pick overall by the New York Jets. Played his whole career with the Jets. Ended up becoming an announcer for the Jets. Played from 1979 to 1989. Was a really solid. Had 43 sacks for a defensive end. His high was in 1988. He had 6.5 in 1981. He's 6th all time on the New York Jets sack list. Just a really solid player. 1981, the New York Jets led all of the NFL in sacks with 66. They reached the 1982 AFC Championship game. Getting back to Salam real quick, in 1983, he was replaced in the starting lineup by Kenny Neal. That's pretty much was the end of his run. And Kenny Neal only lasted a couple years, but the other three were part of it for quite a while. The man that everybody knew about because of his sack dance and his craziness was Mark Gastineau. But all his craziness, people lost on the fact of how good of a defensive end he was. He wasn't bad against the run. He won't win any awards for being the greatest run stopper. His job was to go get the quarterback. And he was fast. He was strong. He was quick. He had 11 in 1980. He was a rookie in 1979 out of Eastern Arizona, Arizona State, Eastern Central Oklahoma. He was drafted in, it basically was drafted in the second round, the 41st pick overall from East Central Oklahoma. I don't think many people expected much. He did really well at the combines. That's why he moved up in the draft, played at a small college. But he was a 5-time Pro Bowl, 3-time All-Pro, 1984 Defensive Player of the Year, UPI Defensive Player of the Year. He had 20 sacks in 81, 1983, 22. That was a record for a number of years in 84. Led the league in 83 and 84. Had 13 and a half in 85. And after 10 years, he was out of the league, but he is first overall in the Jets with 107 sacks for his career. It was a great player to watch. I mean, I was a huge fan just because he was a nut job. He really was. He was just a crazy dude who, his job was to go get the quarterback, and he did it really, really well. 3 members of the Sack Exchange have been inducted in the team's Ring of Honor: Klecko in 2010, Gastineau in 2012, and Lyons in 2013. And they all deserve it. Lyons was inducted in the College Football Hall of Fame in 2011. And Klecko and Joe Fields, who was the center for the New York Jets, wrote a book together on Klecko's career, including details of his relationship with Gastineau, which was always rocky. Because, let's be honest, Klecko was a football player. That guy would run through the wall for anybody. He cared about winning games and didn't care if his name was ever mentioned. Gastineau was all about, look at me. And it was pretty much his personality. It's just who he was. And he was involved with Bridget Nielsen for a while, an actress. And he was kind of a crazy guy off the field. And I don't think Klecko was a fan, let's just say. There's a lot of conversations and heated exchanges many times off camera between them. But for a while, this was one of the best defensive lines in football ever, to be honest with you. When you look at the duration and what they accomplished as a team, it's rare to have 4 defensive players play a long time together. The 3 of the 4 played 10 years together. And Salam, along with Gastineau and Lyons, played 5 years together. So this core of this group were together for quite a long time, and were outstanding by the fact that, you know, Lyons is in the Hall of Fame, even though it's not the pro. Klecko's in the Hall of Fame. There's talk that Gastineau should be in the Hall of Fame. I don't know if we go that far, because he was kind of one-dimensional in a lot of ways. You know, Lawrence Taylor sacked the quarterback, but Lawrence Taylor was the baddest linebacker in the game. He stopped the run. He would disrupt offenses all over the place. So he was a different mindset. Gastineau was all about rushing the quarterback, and he was good at it. And but I don't know if he deserves to be the Hall of Fame. I think Klecko definitely deserved. He was an all-around defensive lineman who I'm glad he got, you know, looked at and got put in a position where he got recognized by his peers and by, you know, the Hall of Fame in Canton. And it's a great place for him to be. Talk to you a little bit about Penny Sleever and why I liked him. I liked him for a lot of reasons, but one of my main things I like for him is they have created sleeves for literally every Bowman card, Gowdy card, the oversized 52, 3, 4s, and 5s, and 56s in both Bowman and Topps. They have sleeves for all that. I would highly recommend you go look at them. Their prices are very, very fair. They're a great company. They get back to you all the time. The back and forth is great to deal with. And the other thing I want to talk about is MagPro. And because it's another way, I'm going to share some cards with you, but this is a Floyd Little card. But these MagPros come, and depending on the bulk you buy in, is really a solid deal. You can get them as low as about $3.25, $3 if you get a bunch. And along with, once you get the flip, which works out to, I got 300 for I think $75. And so you're into this for maybe $3.50, $3.75 to slab your card that you don't want to send in to get graded, or that if you don't care about grading, but you want a way to display your cards. This is a beautiful way. Kim Anderson, who I deal with a lot there, is a wonderful person to deal with. She understands when you give her an idea, she puts it together and puts it on paper. I told her I wanted the 65 flag and I wanted it in rainbow colors. And look what she did. I mean, it's perfect. And this is how they come. You get a big old package of them. Just really well done. It's on a hard stock. It's not like paper. It's kind of a thicker paper stock, so it fits in really nice in these things. Another company I would highly recommend. That's my little plug for those. I don't get anything for it, nor do I want anything for it. Now I'm going to share some football cards with you. It's one of my favorite, if not my favorite, running back. I was a huge Emerson Boozer fan. This is rookie card. I think his 70 is his rookie card, excuse me. Just a solid player. Him and Matt Snell formed a great running back duo for about 6 years. I mean, remember, the Jets won the 1969 Super Bowl, and they were the biggest, or the Colts were a 17.5-point favorite in a Super Bowl, which is just, no one's ever had a number like that. And they ended up winning the game because Joe Namath called the most perfect game. And back then, the quarterback called the plays. It wasn't an offensive coordinator. Joe Namath called the plays. And he utilized Boozer and Snell in that game to perfection. Snell had 23 yards in that game. And Namath was just pinpoint on. He just read that defense and understood where the weaknesses were, because that Baltimore team didn't have any weaknesses, let's be honest. He just happened to have an exceptional game, and the Jets played outstanding to win that game. But Emerson Boozer is one of my favorite players. Some stuff I picked up lately, I've been picking up some of the older stuff. This is a Vetnan Jablonski card from 1950, Bowman. Rob Good. When I can see these Bowmans, these I picked up for like $2 or $3. Not in bad shape. This is one of my favorite players. I'm going to do a whole thing on Charlie Trippier because you guys need to know about how good this guy was. Plus, I love his number, 62. Joe Perry, Hall of Fame. Great running back. It's a 55 Bowman. Tom Fears, a really good receiver for the Rams. Let's see if I can get this thing to, come on. There we go. 1956 Topps. Tom Fears. Hopalong Cassidy, Howard Cassidy, 1959 Topps. Dan Toller, part of that great early Rams team, the running back that was outstanding with Dick Horner and Bob Waterfield at quarterback. Hugh McElhaney, part of that, of the early 49ers teams that were really good. A few more for you. These are in my Mag Pros. It's a Floyd Little. I think I showed you just earlier. One of my favorite receivers. He played for the Saints, Danny Abramovich. Outstanding receiver, caught between 50 and 60 passes, which in the 60s and 70s, you have to understand, that was a big number. Today, guys are catching 100 passes or 17 games, but they throw the ball 70 times a game, 70% of the time. Back then, it was a 50-50. So I think Abramovich here had 50, 54, 73, 55. Of course, one of the greats of all time, Fred Biletnikoff for the Raiders. It's a 1970 tops. One of my favorite running backs, another Jet, of course, John Riggins, ended up playing for the Washington Redskins. Just got inducted in the Hall of Fame. Probably long overdue. Chuck Howley was an outstanding linebacker for the Cowboys. That's just some of that. Player I want to give, I picked this up. I just love this because it reminds me of Mookie. Every time I think of Mookie Chilson, I look at this card. It is just hammered, but it's a Luis Aparicio 1958. But to me, it's beautiful. This thing's been handled, it's been used, it's been abused, but I loved it. I got this for $1. You get a 1958 Luis Aparicio a Hall of Famer for $1, even in this condition. To me, I got to have it. I just think it's beautiful. I like looking at it. I just want to have it to, I like worn cards. I'm okay with a pinhole. I'm okay with 1s and 2s and 3s. I have no problem with that. I don't need high-grade copies. The player we're going to talk about today, let's take down the New York Sack Exchange for right now. Player I want to talk about, because I want to get some cards of his up, is Darren Johnson. Darren Johnson was an outstanding player for played I think almost 16 years. There's a 1959 rookie card. I call it 60s a rookie card per se, but I mean, he was part of these two series. And there's a 65, 68, his 1970, and his 1972. Just a few of them. I like collecting and doing player runs of lesser players. They're easy to put together. I'll keep these couple ones up here. Keep a couple of them up. Let's keep this one up. And we'll put that one just to talk about him. Darren Johnson had a 21-year career, if you count his minor leagues. But listen to this when he started off his career. He was 17 years old at Kearney. And his first 5 years in the minors, he hit 24, 26, 27, 25, and 27 homers. Guy had 129 homers at the age of 21 in the minors. There's not many guys come out of the gate swinging like that and becoming a player to that ability. And he played a few more years. He got in with he started off with the New York Yankees and started off in 1961, then was traded to the Kansas City Athletics at age 22 and 23. Didn't do much, and then he went to San Diego, the PCL, for the 1963 season, as they were part of the Cincinnati Reds farm team, and he ended up playing for the Cincinnati Reds. That became his main major league team. But first year with the Reds was 1964. He had 21 homers. The next year, he led the league in RBIs with 130 and hit 32 homers in 1965 with a 287 average and plus 30 doubles. The following year, he had 24 homers and 81 RBIs. Then he had 13 and 53. Got traded to Atlanta in 1968. Didn't play a lot there. I think he was hurt part of the season. He had 8 homers, 33 RBIs. Bounced back with Philadelphia in 1969. Played with them through 1972, where he hit 17, 27, and 34 homers. Drove in 80, 93, and 95. Batted just a little bit above 260 all years. Outstanding first baseman and just a solid bat. Got traded from there to Oakland, where he became the DH and hit 19 homers with 81 RBIs in 1973. Played just briefly for Philadelphia in 73 before moving on to the A's. Played in 1974 for 3 teams, Oakland, Milwaukee, and Boston, where he hit 13 homers and 43 RBIs. And then at age 36, he got traded. He started off the season with Boston, but spent the rest of the year, his last year in baseball, 1975, with 18 homers and 72 RBIs to the Chicago White Sox. Overall, he had 19 homers and 75 RBIs. For his career, he had 245 homers in the major leagues with 923 RBIs and a 244 average. Count his minor league, he played 21 seasons where he had 407 home runs. That's pretty amazing. Anybody hits 400 home runs, I don't care where it is. That's why I always include their minor league stats or if they played in Winter League or wherever, because that's counting baseball. And he had 407 homers with 1,479 RBIs and a 254 average. And he had 2,250 hits. Just a solid career. After his career, he went into coaching. He managed the Salt Lake City Gulls in 1978 and then began his coaching career in the majors where he was at California 1979 and 1980 as a coach with the Mets in 81, a member of the Phillies staff in 82 through 84. In 85 and 86, he was with the Seattle Mariners and spent the next year with the Chicago White Sox. He returned to the Angels as the hitting coach from 1989 to 1991. He passed away at a very young age in 1992 at the age of 53 because he was a heavy smoker and died of lung cancer. Just an outstanding player. There'll be a bio for him. There was a great Saber bio written that'll be in the show notes. Check out my show notes all the time. I try to include a lot of links to stats and bios and information written about somebody if they're there. He won a World Series with the 1973 Oakland A's. He was part of that team. On 6 occasions, he had 20 homers. On 2 occasions, he had 30 homers in a season or more. Led the league in RBIs in 65, like I said, and that was his only year that he had more than 100 RBIs. But Darren Johnson, in the Hall of the Very Good, a solid player, outstanding in every sense of the word. And now I'm going to share with you, before we leave, just one of my, let me get rid of this so I can give it, show you. This is one of my Expo books. So I've got 4 of these. This one starts off from 1969 and goes through to 1978. And it's literally page by page of just, there's a few places I'm missing. I gotta do them up. I'll show you this book at another time where I'll show you page by page, but I'm just giving you an idea. I've got 4 of these books completely full. I'm gonna have to start a 5th one. Oops, excuse me. Start a 5th one to probably do the rest. I'm missing quite a few team sets from, I'd say, the 90s and early 2000s because there were so many products out at the time. But this, I hope you enjoyed and learned a little bit more about the New York Jets Sack Exchange and why they were so popular. They were featured. There's a 30 for 30, which I'll give you a link to. It was just put out by ESPN on them. That was outstanding. And to a couple of the books, if you want to read a book or buy a book or check a book out, highly recommend you look into it. And again, talking about, I think, a really solid player, Deron Johnson. I keep calling him Darren. It's Darren Johnson. It looks like it's Deron, but it's Darren. That's how they pronounced it. Excuse me for messing that up. Until the next one, take care. Really enjoy the Christmas season. This will come out, I think, sometime before Christmas. So hope you all have a wonderful season and really just smile and enjoy every day. Take care.